The Three Little Bears and the Golden-Haired Girl. Once upon a time, in a forest so soft and green that even the light seemed to tiptoe through the trees, there lived three little bears. They were a gentle family, as kind as the morning and as warm as fresh bread, just pulled from the oven. There was a great big bear whose voice was low and rumbly, like a summer thundercloud far, far away. There was a middle-sized bear whose voice was warm and round like a cup of chamomile tea. And there was a tiny little bear whose voice was small and sweet, like a little songbird settling into its nest for the night. Their cottage sat in a clearing where wildflowers nodded their heads in the breeze, and a little brook hummed quietly to itself just beyond the garden gate. The cottage had a thatched roof dusted with moss, and ivy climbed the walls so gently, so slowly, the way a sleepy child might pull up a soft blanket. Inside, everything was just right. Everything was warm. Everything was still. On this particular morning, the three little bears had made their porridge and set it in its three bowls upon the table. The great big bowl steamed and swirled with warmth. The middle-sized bowl settled gently, sending little curls of mist up toward the ceiling. And the tiny little bowl, the smallest one, sat quietly, cooling down the fastest, as small things do. The bears looked at their breakfast and decided, as bears sometimes do, that a slow walk through the forest would help the porridge cool to just the right temperature. So they wrapped themselves in their soft scarves. The big bear's scarf the color of autumn bark, the middle bear's scarf the color of dried lavender, and the little bear's scarf the color of fresh cream, and they padded softly out through the cottage door, closing it gently behind them. The forest welcomed them the way a forest always does, with birdsong and the rustling of leaves, with the smell of earth and moss and the faintest trace of pine. The path beneath their paws was soft with fallen leaves, and the light that filtered through the canopy above was golden and quiet, the kind of light that makes everything feel like a memory of something peaceful. The big bear walked with slow, heavy steps, and the middle bear walked beside, and the little bear toddled along behind, stopping every now and then to look at a pebble or a curling fern, the way small creatures do when the whole world seems wonderful and unhurried. Now, while the three little bears were walking through their quiet forest, something soft was happening back at their cottage. A little girl with hair the color of golden honey had been wandering along the forest path, following the sound of the brook, following the light between the trees, and she came, quite by chance, to the clearing where the cottage sat among the wildflowers. She was not frightened, and she was not in any hurry. She was simply a small, sleepy child who had wandered a little further than she meant to, and she noticed, quite gently, that the cottage door had not latched all the way closed. She pushed it open, just a little, and stepped inside. The cottage smelled of porridge and pine wood and something sweet she could not name. It was the kind of smell that makes your shoulders drop and your eyes go soft. She saw the three bowls on the table, and she was, it must be said, a little hungry from her walk. She tasted the great big bowl first, but it was still a touch too warm, and she set down her spoon with a quiet clink. She tasted the middle-sized bowl, and it was just a little too cool, and she set that spoon down gently as well. But the tiny little bowl was perfectly, wonderfully, exactly right. It was smooth and sweet and warm in just the way that porridge should be on a soft morning, and she ate it slowly, savoring every spoonful, the way you do when something tastes like comfort itself. Then, because the cottage was so peaceful, she wandered further in, trailing her fingers along the warm stone wall. She found three chairs arranged near the window where the morning light fell in long, pale ribbons. She tried the great big chair, but it was much too wide, and she felt very small in it. She tried the middle chair, but it was a little too firm. She tried the tiny little chair, and it was just right, just cozy and small, and she curled into it and rested her head against its arm, and her eyes grew heavy, and her breathing slowed, the way yours is slowing right now, perhaps. She found her way to a little room where three beds were arranged, like three clouds side by side. The big bed had a quilt the color of the night sky, deep and wide and very soft. She climbed up and lay down, but it was just a little too high, and the pillow was a touch too firm. The middle bed had a quilt, the color of a warm sunset, pink and golden and lovely, but it was just a little too something, not quite right. But the tiny little bed, with its quilt the color of fresh meadow grass and its pillow like a little cloud, was absolutely, perfectly, completely just right. She slipped beneath the covers, she pulled the soft quilt up around her chin, and she closed her eyes, and she let out a long, slow breath, and she drifted away into a very gentle, very safe, very quiet dream. When the three little bears came padding softly home through the forest, the light had shifted to the warm gold of late morning. They came through the cottage door, slowly and quietly, and they noticed their bowls, and they noticed their chairs, and they wandered, step by gentle step, to the little bedroom. And there, tucked into the tiny little bed, was the golden-haired girl, sleeping so peacefully that even the big bear could not help but smile a low, rumbly, wondering smile. They stood there for a moment, the three of them in the doorway, watching her breathe. They did not wake her, because she looked so very comfortable, and the room was so very soft, and the morning was so very still, that it felt like the most natural thing in the world to let her sleep. The big bear sat in the big chair by the window and read quietly. The middle bear went back to the kitchen and made a fresh pot of tea. The little bear curled up on the rug near the cold fireplace and closed their own small eyes. And before long, the little bear was dreaming too. And the cottage held them all, as cottages do, gently and warmly, with the sound of the brook outside and the birds still singing softly in the trees. And perhaps, if you close your eyes right now, you too are somewhere like that little cottage, somewhere warm and soft and perfectly still. Perhaps you can hear something gentle outside your window, the wind or the rain, or just the quietness of the night. Your blanket is just the right weight. Your pillow is just the right softness. You are held, just like the golden-haired girl, in a place that is safe and warm and full of the kind of peace that has no edges. Let your breath come slowly now. In and out. In and out. The bears are sleeping. The porridge bowls are washed and put away. The wildflowers outside the cottage are nodding their heads in the evening breeze. And everything, in all the soft and quiet world, is just right. Just exactly, perfectly, wonderfully right. Sleep now, little one. Sleep now.